Have you ever seen someone arrogant, untouchable, convinced they're in control, suddenly lose their footing? Not because someone yelled at them, not because someone put them in their place, but because something shifted. Ego is a fortress, but if you know where to strike, it crumbles with a whisper. You don't need to argue. You don't need to humiliate. You don't even need to say a word. All you have to do is let them destroy themselves. The human ego is far more fragile than people think. One misplaced compliment can make them doubt themselves. One well-timed glance can shake their confidence. One moment of silence can make them feel smaller than ever before. Today, you're going to learn how to dismantle someone's ego without them even realizing it. How to make them second-guess themselves. How to make them spiral without ever laying a hand on them. You want to master the psychology of control? Subscribe now and let's begin. A fragile ego is like a glass tower, impressive from the outside, but one crack and the whole thing collapses. People with big egos think they're untouchable. They walk into a room believing they own it. They talk as if their words are law, expecting the world to agree. They assume their confidence makes them powerful. But confidence and ego? Two very different things. True confidence is solid. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't react to insults. It doesn't break under pressure. But ego is an illusion. And illusions are fragile. Here's the paradox. The bigger someone's ego, the more insecure they actually are. They need to feel important. They need to be admired. They need to be right. And when someone needs something that badly, they become easy to control. Tell them they're wrong. They'll argue until they embarrass themselves. Ignore their accomplishments. They'll try harder to impress you. Give them a subtle, backhanded compliment. They'll obsess over it for days. The ego isn't a fortress, it's a trap, and the people who fall into it, they don't even realize they've lost. Think about it. Have you ever seen someone get defensive over something small? A simple comment, a harmless joke, an offhand remark. Suddenly they're fuming, trying to prove themselves. Why? Because deep down, they're not as secure as they pretend to be. That's the secret. You don't have to fight someone's ego. You just have to let it do what it does best, destroy itself. And once you understand that, you gain the power to control any interaction, any conversation, any situation. Whoever controls the ego controls the game. But how do you actually do it? How do you make someone doubt their own confidence without saying a word? Let's break it down step by step. You don't need to insult someone to make them feel small. You don't need to call them out, embarrass them, or prove them wrong. All you need is to let them feel it on their own. Ego thrives on recognition. It needs validation. It needs resistance. So what happens when you remove both? You take away its oxygen. And when you do that, people start to shrink all on their own. The empty nod. How to deflate a bragger without saying a word. Someone is showing off. They're waiting for admiration, waiting for a reaction. Don't challenge them, don't praise them, don't argue. Just nod. A slow, neutral nod. No enthusiasm, no engagement, no validation. Then change the subject. Watch what happens. They'll feel the need to keep proving themselves, to explain more, to try harder. And the harder they try, the more desperate they look. Because the worst thing you can do to someone seeking validation is to give them nothing at all. The evaluative look. How to make someone question themselves without speaking. You don't have to correct someone to make them doubt themselves. All you have to do is look at them like they just said the dumbest thing in the world. Slight head tilt, slow blink, a subtle, almost imperceptible smirk. Hold the pause for a second too long, then move on like they never even spoke. This one is lethal. It plants an idea in their mind. Did I just embarrass myself? Was that stupid? Do they think less of me? And once someone starts questioning themselves, their ego does the rest of the work for you. Supreme politeness. How kindness can make someone feel insignificant. People expect aggression in an argument. They expect pushback, conflict, emotion. But what they don't expect is extreme politeness. Over-the-top, exaggerated courtesy can be the sharpest knife of all. They throw an insult. You smile and say, "I really hope you're having a good day." They try to provoke you. You remain completely unfazed, answering with calm, measured words. They try to dominate the conversation. You listen, nod, and let them keep talking until they feel like they're performing for an empty room. The moment they realize they can't shake you is the moment they start feeling powerless. Because the person in control is always the one who remains unbothered. To make someone feel small, you don't need to attack them. You just need to refuse to acknowledge their importance. And now that you know how to cut someone down without lifting a finger, let's take it even further. Let's talk about how to make them doubt everything they believe about themselves. Nothing bruises the ego more than being ignored. People crave validation, attention, recognition. Take that away, and suddenly they start to question their own worth. This is the silent power move that makes people chase you without you lifting a finger. The one who leaves first wins. Think about the last time someone walked away from you mid-conversation, ended a discussion before you were finished, or simply stopped replying. Did it bother you? Did you replay the moment in your head, wondering what went wrong? That's the power of absence. The moment you leave first, you become the one in control. The person left behind is stuck wondering, analyzing, chasing, while you've already moved on. The strategic disappearance. When someone expects a reaction from you, don't give it to them. They want your anger, stay indifferent. They want validation, give them nothing. They want to get under your skin, walk away before they even get the chance. When you remove yourself from the equation, they're left playing a game with no opponent. And when there's no opponent, there's no victory. Just a crushing silence that makes them realize they never had power over you in the first place. The delayed recognition. Most people will do anything to feel seen. They name drop, they show off, they fish for compliments. And the easiest way to deflate their ego, let them wait for acknowledgement that never comes. They tell you about their success. You respond with a casual, "Oh, cool," and move on. They expect admiration. You act as if what they said was completely normal, unimpressive, just another statement in the conversation. Watch how fast they start over-explaining, trying harder, craving the approval you refuse to give. The silent cut-off. The worst punishment for someone who craves your attention is to make them feel invisible. This doesn't mean blocking them or making a dramatic exit. That still gives them significance. Instead, fade out. Respond slower, keep interactions brief, let them feel the distance growing. When someone needs your attention and you give them space instead, their mind fills in the blanks. They wonder, did I do something wrong? Why are they pulling away? Am I not important enough? And before they know it, they're the ones chasing you, desperate to regain what they thought they had. No validation equals no significance. Make someone feel like an afterthought and watch their ego collapse under its own weight. And now that you know how to use absence as a weapon, let's take it even further. Let's talk about how to make someone question everything they believe about themselves. The biggest fear of someone with a massive ego is losing control. They thrive on dominance, certainty, and validation. The moment they feel like they're slipping, their entire confidence starts to crack. But here's the trick. You don't need to take their power away. Just make them believe they're losing it on their own. The power of planting doubt. A person with a strong ego needs to feel certain in their choices, their words, their influence. So, what happens when you subtly make them question that certainty? You don't argue, you don't correct them, you don't attack. You just ask a simple question. Are you sure that's the right move? 5 words. That's all it takes to make their mind spiral. They might not show it on the surface, but inside, they're replaying their own thoughts, questioning themselves, second-guessing what was once solid ground. The subtle shift, giving less than expected. People with big egos expect a certain reaction from you. They expect admiration, agreement, even resistance. So what happens when you don't give them what they want? They tell a grand story expecting a big reaction. You just nod and move on. They seek validation for a decision. You give them a neutral response. They try to push you into a debate. You let their words hang in the air, unanswered. This creates a psychological void, one they will desperately try to fill. And in that void, they start wondering, did I lose my influence? Why aren't they reacting? Am I not as powerful as I thought? The weapon of silence, making them question themselves. Nothing makes a person doubt themselves more than expecting a reaction and getting silence instead. They say something bold, expecting pushback. You just stare at them. They ask for your opinion, assuming agreement. You take a moment, then say, "I'll think about it." They make a decision and look at you for validation. You let the moment linger, long enough for them to wonder if they made a mistake. The result? They start backtracking, over-explaining, and ultimately, feeling smaller. You don't need to take power from someone. Just make them feel like it's slipping through their fingers. Because the moment they start questioning themselves, you've already won. Now, let's take this a step further. How do you use this technique to make someone completely dependent on your approval? Some people crumble under direct criticism, but the truly dangerous way to destroy confidence? It's not by tearing someone down, it's by lifting them up, just enough to make them feel inadequate. Because when you attack someone's ego head-on, they resist, they defend themselves, they fight back. But when you praise them, just in the right way, you bypass their defenses, you make them doubt themselves without even realizing why. And that's where true psychological power begins. The compliment that cuts. "Oh wow, I didn't expect that from you." Let's say someone achieves something they're proud of. Instead of giving them the validation they crave, say, "Wow, I had no idea you could do that." It sounds like praise, but underneath, it whispers doubt. Wait, shouldn't they have expected this from me? Do I usually seem incapable? Was this actually impressive, or do I just look like someone who wouldn't succeed? It creates a quiet insecurity, one they won't even be able to call out, because technically, you complimented them. That's the beauty of backhanded validation. It forces them to prove themselves further, chasing a level of respect that you've made them feel they haven't fully earned. The silent comparison. That's good, but I've seen better. People with fragile egos need to feel like they're the best. They crave superiority. So what happens when you subtly remind them that they aren't? Instead of outright criticism, use indirect comparison. You did great. Your style reminds me of insert someone they secretly compete with. Or even worse, that's a smart approach. I saw something similar done at a much higher level before. Now, they're no longer proud of their work. They're suddenly questioning, was this even impressive? Do I really stand out? Am I actually good enough? And here's the best part. They won't argue with you, because technically, you said they were good. But you made them feel like they weren't good enough. The perfectionist's curse. So close. If only. Some people hate being wrong, but what truly eats at them? Being almost right. When you frame their success as just short of perfect, you strip them of the satisfaction of winning. I love what you did here. If just one tiny detail was better, it'd be flawless. This is really impressive. If you tweak it a little, it'll actually be amazing. To a normal person, this sounds like constructive feedback. But to someone with an inflated ego, it's a slow psychological burn. Now, instead of feeling proud, they feel frustrated. They start obsessing over that one little thing they didn't get right. And the next time they achieve something, they won't feel satisfied. Because you planted a seed. A seed that makes them believe that no matter how much they do, it'll never quite be enough. The power of delayed recognition, the ultimate ego trap. Want to destroy someone's confidence without saying a word. Make them wait for your approval. People with big egos expect immediate recognition. They thrive on instant validation. But what happens when you delay it? When you act like their achievement wasn't even worth acknowledging? Someone brags about something, nod, but don't react. They expect praise? Say, that's cool, and change the subject. They look at you waiting for a reaction. Make them wait longer than they're comfortable with. Soon enough, they start to crave your approval. And once someone starts chasing your validation, you control their ego. You don't need to attack someone's confidence. You just need to give them just enough validation to make them feel like they still need more. Because the moment someone starts looking to you for approval, that's the moment you own their ego. And next, we take it even further. How do you make them feel powerless without ever taking their power away? The most powerful move in any psychological game, it's not attacking, it's letting them destroy themselves. Because the truth is, people with fragile egos don't need enemies. They are their own worst enemy. All you have to do is give them space to fall apart. Let them dig their own grave. You've seen it before. Someone trying too hard to sound intelligent, to impress, to dominate a conversation. But what happens when you just let them talk? The more they speak, the more mistakes they make. The more they explain, the more they contradict themselves. And the more they try to prove how smart they are, the more obvious it becomes that they aren't. All you have to do is stay quiet, nod, listen, let them keep going. Eventually, they will say something that exposes them. They will go too far. They will push themselves into a corner. And when they do, you don't even have to call them out. Just pause. Hold eye contact. Let them sit in their own words. And watch as they begin to crumble under the weight of their own voice. Never save them from their own mistakes. Most people, when they see someone struggling, feel the need to step in, to help, to save them from embarrassment. But here's the real power move. Don't. When someone makes a mistake, let them sit in it. When they stumble, let them fall. When they realize they've miscalculated, don't reassure them. Just observe. Because the moment they realize no one is coming to their rescue, that's the moment their confidence shatters. A person with a fragile ego can't handle failure. They need constant validation, constant saving, constant reassurance. And when they don't get it, they spiral. They start over-explaining, backtracking, making excuses. And with every desperate attempt to fix their mistake, they only make it worse. You don't need to destroy them. Just don't help them rebuild. The final acknowledgement, the silent verdict. There's nothing more devastating to someone's ego than realizing they were wrong. And here's how you make it hit even harder. When they finally see it, when they finally admit it, you don't need to say, "I told you so." You don't need to rub it in. You don't even need to respond. Just pause. Look at them. Give a slight nod. Not a smug nod, not a mocking one, just acknowledgement. That one small movement says everything they don't want to hear. It tells them, yes, you were wrong. Yes, I knew it. And no, I don't need to say it out loud. And that's when their ego shatters completely. You don't need to destroy someone's confidence. You just need to stop protecting it. Because when someone is left alone with their mistakes, their failures, their self-doubt, they won't need you to break them. They'll do it themselves. And that's the ultimate power move. You've just learned how to dismantle someone's ego without them even realizing it. Now, the question is, what will you do with this power? Will you use the gentle cut to make someone feel small without ever insulting them? Or will you master the power of absence, forcing them to question their own worth in your presence? Maybe you'll go for backhanded validation, planting the seeds of doubt in their mind with a well-placed compliment. Whatever you choose, remember this. The strongest players in the game of control don't fight for dominance. They make others surrender it willingly. So tell me, which method will you test first? Drop a comment below. I want to hear which strategy you think is the most powerful. But here's the real challenge. The next time you're in a conversation, try one of these techniques. Use the silent response and see how long it takes before they start talking themselves into submission. Try the illusion of control and make someone second-guess their own decisions. Or simply walk away at the right moment and watch their confidence crumble. The moment you see the shift, the moment you watch them scramble to regain control, that's when you'll understand how powerful these techniques really are. This isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding how human psychology works. Because the people who truly understand psychology don't chase power. They attract it. And those who don't, they lose. So if you're serious about mastering dark psychology, power moves, and the art of silent control, subscribe now. Because the people who control the game are the ones who know how to stay silent and let others destroy themselves. Comment below, which technique do you think is the most effective? Which one have you seen being used in real life? And more importantly, which one will you use first? Let's see who's really paying attention.